with us now to discuss is former Watergate prosecutor Nick Ackerman, former Trump White House lawyer Jim Schultz, and authoritarian expert Ruth Ben-Ghiat, author of Strong Men, Mussolini to the Present. Thank you all for joining me. Nick, the committee has promised that they would, directly connect the extremist groups that stormed the Capitol to the Trump administration. Did they deliver in this hearing?
Well, they did it to an extent. They certainly showed that Donald Trump put out that tweet on the night or early morning of December 9th that basically resulted in all of these extremist groups showing up on January 6th. They showed that he was totally aware of the rally that was going on January 5th that was involving the extremist groups at another location close to the White House. There are hints about calls from people to Roger Stone, to Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon speaking to Donald Trump the night of January 5th, and then basically saying on his podcast that things were really going to be wild the next day. You've got Meadows making a call to Roger Stone. I don't think they've really tied it together. There's lots of circumstantial proof here that Donald Trump knew something was going to happen, but I think it's going to be that last hearing that we're going to get it tied together.
The other piece of evidence revealed in this hearing, Jim, was in the wake of the attack. So right after it happened, Trump's former campaign manager, Brad Parscale, sent a text saying, quote, Trump's rhetoric killed someone. Another campaign official, Katrina Pearson, responds, it wasn't the rhetoric. Parscale writes back, Katrina, yes, it was. Jim, your take. Do you feel like the connection is clear?
So look, I think the last comments were exactly spot on. But what I think, I don't think you're going to get that clear nexus out of this committee. I think the only way to get that clear nexus is to do that by way of a grand jury, and we'll see whether the Justice Department takes that up. And I do believe that Congress will likely make a referral over to DOJ, given some of the signals that we've seen today and from the chairwoman.
And Ruth, we heard yesterday from one witness who pleaded guilty already in the DOJ investigation to disorderly conduct for illegally entering the Capitol that day. Listen to this.
We didn't actually plan to go down there. We went basically to see the Stop the Steal rally, and that was it.
So why'd you decide to march to the Capitol?
Well, basically, the president, got everybody riled up, told everybody to head on down. So we basically were just following what he said.
How significant was this testimony?
Oh, very, because the core, we really can't understand January 6th without the understanding the strength of Trump's leader cult and the hold he had on people. And, this was a Save the Leader event. They were summoned by this leader in distress who had the election, he'd been wronged and they were going to right the wrong. But he'd also been using rallies since 2015 to systematically cultivate not only extremists, and as the Oath Keeper said yesterday, giving them a path forward, making them feel legitimate. Remember, he also called neo-Nazis very fine people. I bet they didn't expect that from a president of the United States. So all these different extremists were given a kind of a big tent to feel like they had a path forward to, and were encouraged in violence. But the rallies in particular were cultivating, this kind of emotional training to be violent and consider violence as patriotic. And I think that's why Brad Parscale, who was not only his campaign manager, but oversaw the digital part, and that testimony, that the first one you mentioned, he talked about how he was radicalized on social media. That's why Brad Parscale said that the rhetoric kills coming from Trump.
And Nick, you mentioned this off the top. A lot of these people went to D.C. because of that initial tweet from Trump encouraging people to go there, be wild, he wrote. Nowhere did Trump, though, explicitly say, storm the Capitol. But it seems so many of these people took all this as Trump giving them directives. It was just hours later after that tweet, members of the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys, we learned that they reportedly decided to form an alliance. As a prosecutor, though, is that enough?
Well, you need more evidence here, but you got to keep in mind there were really two groups of people there. There was the group of people like Stephen Ayers who basically followed what President Trump said. They went there because they thought there had been a wrong. But there was also this other group that was the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys that were there very purposely. It was premeditated. It was set up for them to actually go into the Capitol at different spots, to break in there, to cause the mayhem and the violence, the goal of which was to stop the vote count on the Electoral College. That was the whole point of what they were doing. All the people that were there, like Stephen Ayers, were simply a foil to them to create more mayhem on the spot, to give the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers the room to get in.
Jim, for the first time, we finally heard from former White House counsel Pat Cipollone. You and I spoke about, the anticipated testimony. What did you think? How key was his testimony?
I think it was key in that he confirmed a lot of the things that Cassie Hutchinson and others had testified to in the past. There was no real bombshell there, but certainly value because he was able to confirm and corroborate some of the testimony of other witnesses, which was the key for this committee. And also, I do think, going back to what we talked about earlier, the court of public opinion certainly, the former president is taking huge hits in the court of public opinion right now on this thing. Remains to be seen whether he takes the hit in a court of law. I think Larry's right. We need to have more evidence in order to move forward.
Nick, Steve Bannon was also part of this hearing. You brought up his podcast that was on January 5th when he said this.
All hell is going to break loose tomorrow. Just understand this. All hell is going to break loose tomorrow. It's not going to happen like you think it's going to happen. Okay, it's going to be quite extraordinarily different. And all I can say is strap in.
Yes, we've played that before. Yes, we've talked about it before. But now we know so much more. Minutes before he said that on air, he spoke to then President Trump. They spoke for 11 minutes, according to White House phone logs. And this week, we know Bannon has said he's willing to publicly testify. Nick, if you're on the committee, what do you do?
Well, I think they should take his testimony. They should take it behind closed doors. They don't want to put him out on public testimony right away because he's just going to try and play the committee. He's going to use it as a PR stunt, and he's going to use it to try and raise a defense in his criminal prosecution. So the committee has to be very careful how they take that testimony, but they should take it. I mean, at a minimum, the worst that happens is the guy's going to perjure himself and he'll wind up in another criminal prosecution.
Jim, the panel's vice chair, Liz Cheney, ended yesterday's hearing saying Trump tried to contact a witness who has not yet appeared before the committee in these hearings. She says the committee referred that to the Justice Department. This was the first time the committee mentioned DOJ involvement during a hearing. So what do you see as the significance? Do you think this was about the committee sending a broader message?
I think it's about the committee. Look, there have been a number of threats that have come to witnesses from unknown folks. We don't know who they are. We don't know if there was anyone directing them. But, contact with a witness is certainly something that they've been taking seriously. No surprise that any contact with a witness that they're going to send over to DOJ to look into. No surprise there at all. And as far as Bannon's testimony goes, I think we have to be mindful there. If they do that behind closed doors, there is some political risk there because they've been pushing everyone out in front of the cameras time and time again. I think, and they tried to get Pat Cipollone to do it in front of the cameras live. Now all of a sudden you're going to draw back because you don't like what Steve Bannon's going to say. You're afraid that he's going to make a mockery of the process. I think you just need to be prepared for it, be aggressive, and take his testimony on air so that you can maintain that credibility of this committee.
Ruth, the other live witness, a former Oath Keeper spokesperson, said he fears what will happen next if people aren't held accountable. How concerned are you about the current threat?
I'm very concerned because the GOP, which really is becoming an extremist entity, is unrepentant. On January 7th, when they did not denounce, they could have thrown, Trump to the wolves. He was so toxic, and instead they doubled down, and it's been a very radicalizing event for the whole party. And what's coming out is how this cultivation of extremists, that the Oath Keepers and all these other kinds of extremists, you could think of them as an emerging paramilitary wing or militia wing of the party. And they would do it again tomorrow, many of these people. And that's why I want to say, you know, having studied unfortunate destructions of democracy all over the world, that the fact we're having these hearings at all, it makes me so proud to live in a democracy. We wouldn't be able to have those hearings in many other countries, and the investigators and the witnesses would, you know, not good things would happen to them. So let's remember the extraordinary work this committee is doing on behalf of accountability and democracy.